Alright guys, so we're out on the backcountry highway. We're cruising this highway doing about 60 miles an hour. We're going to apply the brakes and see how this braking system reacts. If the steering wheel is shaking when I'm applying the brakes, then I know that if the brake rotors are warped and they need to be changed out. And it'll only happen within a certain mile per hour range. Normally it happens when you get up to speed, because everything is more amplified when you're going faster. So we're doing about 65 right now. Let me go ahead and apply these brakes. See what happens with this steering wheel. See how it shakes left and right? That's how I know that these brake rotors are warped. Welcome back to Garage Matters. Now if you need to change your brakes and rotors, come on over here. Let me show you how it's done. Now our test vehicle is going to be this 2017 Toyota 4Runner. And it's going to be a very similar process for all makes and models. Here, we've already got this wheel removed, but let me show you what we're going to do down here. So we're going to remove this rotor right here and change out the brakes. And then back behind here, we're going to remove this entire caliper off. And in order to do that, we just need to remove this bolt right here. And there's another one down here. This big one down here. So these are both 19 millimeters on this vehicle. And once we get this caliper off, we'll go ahead and knock off this rotor. So some of the tools that I'll be using are right here. So I used this impact wrench with a 21 millimeter socket to remove this wheel. This is kind of optional, but some people like using hammers to knock off this rotor. I might use it, but I'm going to use something else. And then you'll also need a torque wrench, a breaker bar with a metal pipe. You'll need a C-clamp, a couple of flathead screwdrivers, and a 12 millimeter wrench. Now some of the other things that you're going to need as well is some brake cleaner, some paper towels, and then you'll need your brake pads and your brand new rotor. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and remove these retaining clips right here. So on the side right here, you have this retaining clip right here that is securing this pin right here so it doesn't come on out. And in order to take this out, all you gotta do is you're just gonna pull it out. So you just pull it out like this, and it'll come right out of this little hole on the pin. And then you're gonna do the same thing down here. You're just gonna pull it out. And you can just use your fingers, or you can even use a flathead screwdriver. But I'm just gonna use my fingers for now. Just gonna pull it out. And then this clip right here, in the middle, is just gonna come right on out like that. Then we're just gonna set this to the side. Next thing I want to do is just remove this pin up here. Most of the time, this pin is loose enough to where you can just kind of slide it out like this and pull it right on out. Then we'll set it to the side over here as well too. Next thing we need to do is remove this other pin, this lower pin right here. We're just going to do the same thing. We're just going to kind of push it out. And then on this side, we're just going to pull it out. And set it to the side down here again. And then this other retaining clip down here, we need to remove this one as well too. And for this one, all you gotta do is just squeeze it together and then it should come right on out. Just like that. Now if you notice what I'm doing is I'm kind of lining everything up just the way I took it off. That way when I go back to reinstall it, I know where each one goes. So this is the top, this is the bottom retainer, and then the side retainer. Come back over here. Now for these brake pads, what I like doing is just kind of compress them back in. So I'm just going to get a flathead screwdriver. I'm going to come right in here, in between the rotor and the brake pad, and just kind of wedge it. That way when I'm wedging it, this brake pad is compressing the pistons over here back on in. So I don't really care about messing up these brake rotors because I'm going to be replacing them anyways. And all you gotta do is just kind of wedge it like that, and then it'll start compressing it. Do the same thing on the bottom. Okay, so we're gonna compress it now. That way, when we go back to install it, we don't have to compress it. It's already compressed. Okay, and that is how I compress these pistons. Now once you think it's compressed all the way, you can see there's a lot of slack and play in here now. So when we go to install the new brake pads, it should fit in perfectly. Now we'll just go ahead and pull them out. All you gotta do is just pull it out, just like that. Out comes your brake pads. Alright, I'm gonna do the same thing, just so I know for the reinstall. And then for this outer brake pad right here, we're gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna stick this flathead screwdriver in here and just wedge it to compress the pistons right here. Okay. Now I've got my screwdriver in between the brake pad and rotor, and I'm just wedging it to compress the piston. So we're doing all this prep work ahead of time to make things easier on the install. That should be good. And then same thing for this outer pad. It just comes right on out, just like that. Put it over here as well. All right, the next thing we need to do is just go ahead and remove this 12mm bolt right here. So this is to give us a little more play within this brake line to go ahead and remove this caliper and set it to the side. Now the next thing I'm going to do is remove these two bolts right here. These two big 19mm bolts right here. There's one on top and one on bottom. And once I remove these two bolts, this whole caliper will be able to come off this assembly right here. And then we're just going to move it to the side. Okay. Now with the two bolts removed, we could go ahead, swing this caliper on over. And we're just going to use this zip tie. Go right through this caliper and through this other bolt hole right here on the frame, and then just zip tie it up so it doesn't fall on the ground, just like that. Now we ain't gotta worry about this caliper falling down. Next thing we need to do is go ahead and remove this rotor. So there's several different methods of removing this rotor. Some people like using a sledge or some kind of hammer to like hit this, and if it doesn't come off like this, then you can obviously use a hammer and just knock the heck out of it. Now I'm using a rubber mallet. You can use a metal one, but that is a lot of work and it's gonna sound really loud. Let me show you something else that's gonna work a whole lot better and a whole lot easier. So what you can do is, here at the 12 and 6 o'clock position, there are two little screw holes right here. So what I have in my hand right here, just extra bolts that I had laying around in the garage. These are 12mm bolts on this vehicle. So what I'm gonna do is just slowly thread them through these holes right here. Now once you got these bolts threaded in my hand, we're just going to use this wrench right here and start tightening it down. So once you start tightening it down, what it's going to do is it's going to slowly push against the inside hub right here and knock out this rotor right here. Alright, there it goes. So you hear the torque brake? Now we know that's loose. Alright, so it's loose now. All we gotta do is just pull this entire rotor off. So doing it this way definitely is gonna be less ear piercing because you're not knocking this entire rotor with a hammer. And it comes off just like that. Now the next thing I want to do is prep this new rotor. So what I'm gonna do is just wipe off all the oil that's on here. So when it comes from the manufacturer, they normally coat it with some kind of oil, that way it keeps it from rusting. We're just gonna wipe all this off real quick before we put it back on. Alright, the inside as well. And then we're gonna use a brake cleaner. You spray it off and wipe it down. Make sure we get all that grease off. Flip it over, do the same thing on the other side. Now after you've got this brake rotor clean, you can go ahead and bring it back over here and reinstall it back onto this hub right here. All you gotta do is just put it back on here, just slide it back on, and that's gonna be good enough for right now. Next thing we need to do is go ahead and reattach this caliper back on here. We're gonna re-bolt this caliper back on, and then we'll put the brake pads back on inside of here. Now with this caliper reattached, all I did was just undo the zip tie that had it zip tied on here. And then just come back here and reattach these two big 19mm bolts up here and down here again. So I just rebolted them in. And make sure you torque it down. I'm gonna torque mine down to about 95 foot-pounds. And then once that's done, I'll come down and tighten up this bolt up here, this 12mm bolt. And then after we do that, we'll come back and reinstall these brake pads. And once again, I'm only going to go 95 on my vehicle, so 95 foot-pounds. Okay, that's good enough. For the bottom bolt, do the same thing for the one at the top. Okay, that should do it. And then next thing we gotta do is finish up this little bolt up here, 12mm. Tighten it back down real quick. And I'm not worried about torquing this one down because it's just holding this brake line in place, so that's good enough. And for these brake pads right here, since I've already reseated the pistons, it was really easy to get these brake pads reinstalled or pushed back in. And all I did was just slide them in here. So with this one, I'm just gonna finish sliding this one in. And up here, so these alignment holes right here, you wanna make sure these holes are aligned with this hole right here, because that's where this pin's gonna go through. We're just gonna kinda push it back on in here. And that looks like it's about good enough. So we'll go ahead and bring the top pin and just slide it through these holes and go through the brake pad as well. And then it's going to go through the other brake pad. Okay. And then out the other side. So there it goes. And then it should come out through the other side just like that. And you want to see that hole on the end. So that's how you know that it's all the way through. And on the head side, it's going to be flushed against this piece right here as well. So we'll do the same thing for the bottom one down here. But before we do the bottom one, we need to reinstall this retaining clip right here. So down here, it's a little different. So once you put this back in here and you stick this pin through, this pin is actually going to go through like this. And that's what you want to happen when you slide the pin back in. So let's go ahead and install this retaining clip first before we put the pin through. And to do that, this second hole up here, you're just gonna put this through the second hole, and this little tip up here through the second hole right here. Squeeze it together and then you slide it on in here. Alright. Just like that. Alright, so that's what it's gonna look like. It's time to slide this pin back through. Alright, and you can see this pin going right through this retaining clip out through the other side. Now we gotta put the other retaining clip in to keep these two pins from backing out. Now for the top one, I'm just gonna put this pin through the hole up here. And then I'm gonna do the same thing down here as well. Now once these pins are through this hole right here, this middle piece right here, we are just gonna reinsert this metal piece back through this hole right here. Just like that. So we're gonna check the top pin, make sure that this retaining clip is through the hole. The middle is good right here, and then the bottom pin, this is good right here. So now this brake caliper and brake pads and brake rotor, it's all done. But before we reinstall this wheel, what I always like to do is pump the brakes. So I'm gonna go in here and pump the brakes. Alright, so I'm gonna hop inside the vehicle and pump these brakes. Now the reason why I like to pump these brakes is to go ahead and reseat these brake pads. So if you don't go ahead and reseat these brake pads, what's going to happen is when you go to step on the brakes, it's going to feel like you got no brakes. So we're going to go ahead and seat them first, reinstall the tire. Alright, now the first couple of pumps, it's going to feel really mushy. The brake pedal is going to go all the way to the floor. Now I like to pump my brakes at least 10 times. That might seem like it's excessive, but I want to make sure these brake pads are seated. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pump them 10 times. Alright, so that should be good enough. Let's go ahead and put this tire back on. Alright, one more check. Looks like everything is nice and tight. Let's go ahead and rotate this. Alright. Nothing sounds crazy. So I think we're gonna be good. Let's go ahead and put this tire back on. Now once the vehicle is back on the ground, even though you use the impact wrench to get these lug nuts tight on here, you always want to double check and torque these lug nuts. I'm going to about 93 foot-pounds. I'm gonna make sure I get both the driver and passenger side, and then this should be it for the brake and rotor removal and installation. So we'll also go out and do a road test real quick to fix this, to see if it fixed the wobbliness in this steering wheel. Alright guys, we're doing the road test. We're going down this mountain again, and we're gonna do about 60 miles an hour going downhill. I'm gonna apply the brakes and let you guys see what this steering wheel is doing. Alright, so we'll get it up to speed. Doing about 62 right now. I'm gonna apply the brakes. Alright, so I don't notice the steering wheel shaking or anything. Let's bring it back up to speed. So we're gonna go to about 65 and I'm gonna hit the brakes again. we're at 65. I'm gonna hit the brakes. And this. Alright, so it appears that replacing the rotors in the brakes definitely fixed the steering wheel from shaking side to side when you apply the brakes at high speeds. Now after that road test, everything works as advertised. Smooth braking from highway speeds and no squeaking from the brakes. No more of this steering wheel shaking when the brakes are applied. And once again, these are things that you can do in your very own garage. And remember, join us next time on Garage Matters and hit that like and subscribe button.